What would you do if you had the power to punish those who destroyed you? The voice of justice screams, but sometimes true judgment is silence. What if, after years of abandonment, scorn, betrayal, fate placed the hammer of decision in your hands? Would you look into the eyes of those who hurt you and do what the world expects, or what your heart, now matured by pain, would silently choose? The heart cries for revenge. It wants the other to feel what you felt. It wants to strike back, to mark the chest of those who forgot you. But the soul does not scream. It whispers. Perhaps it wants peace, between pain and peace, between justice and compassion, between the past and the present. There you are, the man, the woman who survived, and now must decide to avenge what happened, or to free yourself from what still binds you. Life almost never delivers justice at the right time. It delivers tests, mirrors, and choices that come with no manual. Sometimes it gives you exactly what you once wanted, but asks, do you still want it? Today, we dive into one of those stories, ancient as desert sand, but alive because it echoes in the wounds you still carry in silence. We are not here for religion. We are here for wisdom, for strength of spirit, for mastery of the hardest thing to master, yourself. If you seek emotional strength without noise, spirituality without dogma, and wisdom that stands the test of time, stay until the end, because today we will uncover the Stoic message behind Joseph's forgiveness of his brothers. With power in his hands, he chose compassion. In the silence of the Egyptian palace, between stone columns carved by time and eyes that feared him more than understood him, Joseph stood, not as a slave, not as a dreaming youth, but as the second most powerful man in a foreign nation, someone who had walked through deserts of abandonment, climbed stairs of distrust, and survived a dungeon of oblivion. There was no arrogance in his posture, only steadiness. The steadiness of one who learned to stay silent when screaming would have been easy. The steadiness of one who endured false accusations, family rejection, and the silence of a God who seemed absent but was never far. Decades earlier, he was just a boy, wearing the colorful tunic given by his father. Jacob, loved but also hated. His brothers, consumed by jealousy and unresolved wounds, could not stand him, so they conspired, threw him into a dry well, and sold him for coins, as if a man's soul could be traded for silver. In that moment, Joseph lost everything: freedom, family, childhood. He gained something else: exile, not just geographical, but internal. The pain of being discarded by his own brothers does not heal with time. It only shifts inside the chest. But he did not break. He stayed silent, grew, waited. In Egypt, amid humiliation and betrayal, he did not become stone. He became root. The pain that could have bred bitterness turned into discipline. Forgetfulness became listening, and in silence he built his integrity. Now, the roles were reversed. Famine ravaged the lands of Canaan. His brothers came to Egypt seeking food. They entered humbly, hungry, bowing before a man they did not recognize. It was the lost brother, but they did not know. Joseph saw them, and the world stopped. There they were, the same faces, the same voices, older, wearier, but unmistakable. Inside him, something screamed. The past rose like a shadow. The well, the cruel laughter, the cold gaze of those who handed over a brother like merchandise. It all returned, but Joseph remained, did not move his face, did not reveal his name, just watched them. The power was in his hands. Power to judge, to avenge, to make time return everything stolen from him. But he did not. Joseph chose something more complex than revenge, the test, not out of pride, but wisdom. He needed to know, had they changed? So he decided to move the pieces. Imprisoned Simeon, demanded Benjamin's presence, the youngest brother, Rachel's son, his only full-blooded sibling. He placed coins in their bags, created tension, simulated loss, all with one goal: to probe the hearts of those men. Because sometimes, the human soul only reveals itself under pressure. Every decision was weighed, not because it was cruel but because it was just. Every gesture was a mirror, every word spoken a step toward the silent confrontation between past and present. The pain in Joseph did not scream, but it was there, uncomfortable, alive. He slept and saw faces, heard voices, felt the echoes of stolen youth. Yet even then, he did not yield to easy emotion. He observed, waited, sought repentance, not excuses. And then he saw Judah, the same one who had suggested selling him years ago, now stood to protect Benjamin, offered himself as a slave in his brother's place, pleaded to be taken instead, so their old father would not die of grief. The same man, now different. There, Joseph's heart broke, not in despair, in liberation. What was stone became water, but he did not weep before them. He wanted neither weakness nor spectacle. He left the room, found an empty space, and there he wept. Wept for the years he had spent alone, for the embraces he never had, for the life that could have been, for the father who thought him dead, wept for the injustice, but also for the redemption, wept in silence. As the strong weep, when he returned, his decision was made. The mask fell. He revealed himself. I am Joseph, your brother. Silence filled the space. Fear marked every face. The brothers trembled, expected fury, the sword, vengeance, but he continued, it was not you who sent me here, but God. And with those words, he freed them all, himself, first of all, because forgiveness is not forgetting. It is freeing yourself from the need to collect debts in that moment. Joseph was not just a governor, he was a whole man, wounded, but whole, betrayed, but reconciled, powerful, but gentle. He had passed through chaos without letting chaos pass through him. Joseph, with power in his hands, chose compassion, not because his brothers deserved it, but because he no longer needed to carry it. That was his triumph, not over them, but over himself, and that the ancients would call virtue, the wise, inner freedom, and the Stoics, wisdom. What Joseph did was not weakness, it was mastery, mastery of self. It was not passivity, it was the rarest kind of strength, restrained emotional power. When most would react, he chose to reflect. When instinct screamed vengeance, he listened to something deeper, mature awareness. Joseph could have humiliated his brothers. He could have made them pay, slowly, for every tear he shed in Egypt. But he did not, because he was no longer driven by wounds, but by clarity, as Epictetus, the philosopher, who also knew the paths of suffering, once said, it's not what happens to you, but how you think about it that disturbs you. Joseph understood something few realize. What happened to him was tragic, yes, but not definitive. The fact that he was betrayed did not make him a betrayed man forever. The fact that he was sold did not force him to live as emotional merchandise. He reframed his perspective, and in changing his perception, he rebuilt his freedom. Forgiveness, in this context, was not forgetting, it was understanding, seeing the bigger picture, recognizing that pain is part of the journey of a whole man. But it doesn't have to be his compass. As Seneca reminds us, to forgive is to triumph over anger, and anger is the defeat of reason. Joseph did not deny the pain, he simply refused to become its slave. He felt it all, the shock, the trauma, the hidden tears, but he did not let any of it steer his soul. This is what Seneca would call the highest virtue, not reacting like others, but acting as someone who has learned to see life with long vision. In a culture of impulses, Joseph represents the rare, the one who pauses before acting, the one who listens before judging, the one who observes others but looks even deeper within, and therein lies the beauty. He did not offer compassion out of weakness, but because he no longer needed revenge. This is the virtue of resilience, not the kind that hardens, but the kind that matures. It is what Marcus Aurelius would call power over one's own mind. The soul becomes what it feeds on. Joseph fed on purpose, not resentment, on quiet hope, not retaliation. While the world expected hatred, he offered reconciliation, because he learned that sometimes the greatest power is not using it, and that the truly free man is not the one who rules others, but the one who is no longer ruled from within by grievances, memories, or impulses. This is the great Stoic lesson within this story. Maturity is not forgetting what happened, it is knowing exactly what happened and still choosing a higher path. Joseph did not defeat his brothers, he defeated himself. And that, the Stoics would call lived wisdom. And you? Are you living in your own invisible prison, chained to memories that no longer exist, yet still govern your reactions? Are you still feeding the pain, as if it was still happening? Who betrayed you, and you still haven't forgiven? Was it family, those who should have protected you but failed? Or was it friends, people you trusted, who used it against you? Or maybe, it's you. How often do you look in the mirror with judgment, not for the choices you made, but for the ones you didn't have the courage to make? Are you still living for the past, or just surviving, waiting for something outside yourself to free you? Is the silence that unsettles you actually your preparation? What if this wait that wounds you is the necessary time for you to become who you're not yet? Joseph's story isn't just about forgiveness, it's about inner mastery, about not letting what happened to you dictate who you become. He did not deny the pain, but he did not let it drive his life either. Are you reacting as someone who is hurt, or responding as someone who is healing? Because reacting, anyone can do that. Screaming, blaming, running, that's instinct. But responding with maturity, presence, dignity, that's choice. Maybe what was done to you wasn't fair, but what you do with it, that is your responsibility. Will you repeat the pain onto others, or will you let it find rest in you? Not to forget it, but to transform it. Joseph had the power to return the pain, but he chose to break the cycle. And will you remain chained to what you can't change, or will you quietly build a new path within? Because sometimes the greatest liberation doesn't happen outside. It happens when you decide you won't carry what no longer belongs to who you've become. The wise man does not choose the easiest path. He honors the one given to him, because he understands that running from pain is prolonging the captivity, and that, moving through it in silence, is what transforms him. Joseph had power. The world in his hands, the faces that betrayed him, now bowed before him. Yet he chose peace, not because the others deserved it, but because he deserved to be free. Free from the weight of vengeance, free from the need to be right, free from a past he no longer needed to carry. This is the hardest victory, not over others, but over one's own impulse. The mature soul does not seek an audience, it seeks clarity, coherence. Silence. Joseph did not win when he reached the throne, but when he refused to let pain make him like those who hurt him. And that is rare. Is strong. Is beautiful. Because forgiveness is not surrender, it is release. It is no longer being hostage to what's past, so you can walk whole toward what's yet to come. If this story touched something deep in you, consider following this channel. Here, every narrative is more than an ancient text. It's a silent compass for the soul, an invitation to self-mastery, a reminder that the higher path is almost always the quietest, and that sometimes the silence that unsettles you the most is exactly where your answer lies, the one you avoided but are now ready to hear. Thank you for being here. Until the next journey.